And it's just been so awesome to watch you take action in your life, continue to build out and do things and give back to the community and create. That's what this show's all about.
I'm not afraid to show what it is that we do. And I've been doing a lot of that on social media. I've been releasing videos that have been produced inside of the prison, showing the work that I do, and also trying to introduce people to my students that are out here who have been career criminals, murderers, victimizers, and all of the things. And today, a lot of them are flourishing and working in environments where they're actually helping people to become stronger versions of themselves as well.
I'm going to show you a picture, two pictures really, a before and after. And you will look at the pictures and they will be hard to look at. But then you will hear the story and realize that the pictures are in fact beautiful, profound. And when the story is finished, you will believe that no soul is irredeemable and that truly anything is possible. And here it is. This is Ginny Burton, then and now, in the depths of despair, at the height of her glory. Ginny Burton's life story is like nothing you've ever heard before. She was born in Tacoma. When she was 4, her dad went to prison. He shot a woman in the head in an armed robbery. It was her mother, though, that got her smoking marijuana. She was 6 years old.
When did you start using the next level drugs?
When I was 12. I was 12. And she introduced methamphetamine to me. I actually started using cocaine on my own.
She never had a chance. By 14, she was smoking crack. At 16, she was raped by a man who bought drugs from her mother. By 17, she'd attempted suicide. She got pregnant. The baby's father was shot and killed. She eventually had 2 children and married into an abusive relationship. At 21, she started shooting heroin. Addicted to drugs, she stole cars, shot somebody. Her children were taken away from her.
It was like I got caught in this vortex for a long period of time where when I was clean, I was thinking about using, and when I was using, I wanted to get clean.
In all, she had 17 felony convictions. She went to state prison 3 times.
I am the person that you used to clutch your bag when I walked by you. I am the person that would randomly attack somebody in public. Maybe not like an innocent bystander, but you might think so based on what was going on. I am the person that was not safe. I was not a savory person. I wasn't. Everybody was a victim and everybody was prey.
Look at these pictures. Look at what the drugs did to Ginny Burton. She was hell on wheels. At one point, she tried committing suicide. And if you're wondering what it feels like to be an addict on the street, left out there, listen carefully.
When you're stuck on the street and you smell like feces and you haven't showered in forever and you can't make it into a social service agency during working hours because you're too busy trying to feed your addiction, and your addiction is bigger than you, and you've compromised your integrity a number of times over and over and over again, you're starting to be victimized by the people on the streets, you're really not thinking about it. You're hopeless. You can't stand your life. You would rather be dead than alive. I spent most of my addiction wishing that somebody would just blow me away.
And then in 2012, the only thing that could stop her, stopped her.
I knew that the only way for me to get out was to be arrested or to die.
She was arrested and sent to prison for the final time. And while she was there, she decided something. She decided that for the rest of her life, she would carry a message of hope.
I know that it's my job to continue to create hope.
And so we come back around to those pictures, before and after.
When I looked at those pictures, I realized that I was wrong about myself. I was so wrong. And so that's what it represented for me.
By now, you have come to realize that the pictures of Ginny Burton are, in fact, beautiful, profound. You have heard the story, and maybe you believe now that no soul is irredeemable and that truly anything is possible.
Right now, Ginny Burton is literally walking across the state of Washington, 307 miles from North Bend to Spokane, to raise $250,000 and save the prison rehabilitation program she built from the ground up. It's the latest chapter in one of the most remarkable turnaround stories in America. 3 prison terms, nearly 30 years of addiction, and then a University of Washington degree, a Truman scholarship, and a program with a documented 87% abstinence rate among the men she's worked with inside the Department of Corrections.
If you've been locked up for 2 years or less, raise your hand. If you've been locked up for 2 to 5 years, raise your hand. 5 to 10 years. 10 to 15. 15 to 20. 20 and up.
I have seen a shift in our population since OUT has become part of our institution. Our behavior at this facility, I'm very proud of it. They have been staying out of violent behaviors. Substance abuse hasn't been occurring. We have been tracking the last 3 cohorts and the individuals who have done the program and who remain at OCC, including the ones that have released to the community, I'm tracking them as well, are doing well.
How many people in here have been to prison more than 1 time? More than 2 times? 3 times? 4 times?
This is my 5th time in prison, finishing up a 90-month sentence. Why I joined the OUT program is I'm desperate for change. I'm a father of 2. You know, you gotta go. This program has given me a sense of purpose. It's given me direction. It's given me hope. I want to do better for myself and my family. I got a son who's CPS, and I want to get him back. I just want a better life. I want to live a more clean and sober life. I want to have a good job, a career, and coming to her program, it's given me that hope. Thank you.
How many have kids? How many people know that they can do better than they've done in the past once they get out? All right, how many people are gonna do better?
They're not looking at DOC and saying, well, how much money are you going to give me to live here? They're looking at themselves and saying, what can I do to improve my situation? What can I do to provide for my family? What can I do to provide better environments for my children, my wife?
When you realized that you were the cause of your problems, did that bring you freedom or did that make you feel more imprisoned?
I've really been able to take hold of the true meaning of accountability. I have, as many of us do, childhood traumas and, a history in the past that most people, including myself previously, would use to rationalize or justify poor decision-making, bad behavior. But one thing I learned from you in the program is my choices are my responsibility. My past traumas, individuals that mistreated me, different things of that nature don't make me do anything. I make my choices, and I have to be responsible for those choices.
How much does recognizing that you are the author of your own story change the trajectory of your choices?
You can't deal with problems until you name them and you know how to deal with them.
How many guys in this room felt like your circumstances were somebody else's responsibility ever in your entire life? I know I have. We are walking across Washington State to raise the money to support ourselves and not focusing on what government can give us.
Her story has been featured on KOMO News, the Center Square, the Washington Times, and Fox News. And she's now a published author with the Gabriel Plan and a policy consultant for the state of Tennessee. Please welcome Ginny Burton. How are you, Ginny?
I'm good, Rory. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so you're on the road, right? Like, how far have you gone so far? Did you say you're in Moses Lake?
I am in Moses Lake right now. I hit mile 179 about an hour ago. So,
man. And how many days?
8 days.
8 days.
8 days. Yeah. So I'm averaging roughly 25 miles a day.
That's crazy. So the longest I've ever gone is close to 80 miles on the PCT with my buddy Mike and Greg. And that was over the course of about, 6 days. We had weight on, but the idea of walking across the state is like, that's a whole other level. It's so amazing. Right now, you're mid-walk across Washington, 307 miles from North Bend to Spokane. For people just tuning in, what's driving you to do this and why walking?
I've worked in a number of different arenas, reentry, social services, different things like that. My, desire was really to be able to help people just like me, because I have learned a number of different things that have helped to set me free to where I'm not dependent on systems, where I'm not questioning myself anymore. And I truly believe, based on my very long history of living in hell, essentially, that everybody that I know was also looking for a way out. And this last time I was facing a 4 prison sentence, which was in 2012, I was able to take a number of the things that I'd learned and also be able to fill in the gaps. And I changed my life really significantly. So what's driving this walk is that I've been contracted with Department of Corrections now for 3 years. Last year, I took my personal last paycheck in May of 2025. So the state fiscal cycle is June to July, or July to June, excuse me. And all community partner contracts ended. My program is extremely intentional, and we focus a lot on personal internal development and accountability. And then we bring in those external resources, because again, I worked in all of these different fields. And what I found was that I felt like I was killing my own people, because the system isn't necessarily designed to help people become the strongest version of themselves. So, instead of like judging or pointing fingers, which I've definitely done, I started to really design a focused solution based on what it is that I implemented in my own life. And so, I wasn't really willing to just sit there and say, you know what, okay, I just accept that you're cutting the contracts and I'm just going to roll over and cry about it. Instead, I went to DOC administration, people that were pretty high up, and I said, hey, this is what my program is doing. And the prison that I have been incubating in for the last few years came alongside of me to support that, because not only are the guys that I'm serving, and yes, documented 87% on a sample size portion. I can tell you, when it comes to abstinence, 100% of the men that stay engaged with the program, and what I mean by that is showing up to alumni support meetings, developing and building community. Not that they're continuing to be dependent on any kind of supports, because arguably they're not. 100% of those guys are actually abstaining from addiction. We have a few guys. We have one person that has reoffended out of the 57 that have been released. And so that's a small sample size, one step at a time, right? You can't get to 100 without first getting to 57. So one guy reoffended, and that guy actually came back to the institution because he said, well, you were right. I care less about being right, and I care more about planting seeds. And I still think it was a win that he came back. But anyways, I think we have roughly about 9 technical violations. So people that have essentially got put on restriction after they were released. And so, but all of the people that come back in are trying to come back. So I am walking because we don't have enough funding. DOC did find us another contract. It's very small. And again, I pay my staff member, the one staff member I was able to retain with that money, and pay for our rent and our internet and our way to communicate. But, in order for us to be more robust and to spread out, across the system, we need to be able to raise money. We want to be able to put a minimum of 40 more people through the program this upcoming year, 40 more than normal. And so I'm walking to just show that I am willing to do the hard work and what it takes. I've been able to have some of my students walk alongside of me, and that's been huge. I am really working to try to give the community an opportunity to be part of the solution. We have a lot of problematic policies that do not lend to human flourishing. A lot of them help people to continue to spiral the drain by, handing people things that are very poisonous to their life, and they do not help them become the strongest version of themselves. And so, I'm walking to show how we develop strength one step at a time. I'm walking to show community that when we lock arms and we walk alongside of each other, we can perpetuate real human progress, that the people that are inside of these institutions are the same ones that we see spiraling out of control on the streets. And that if we continue to allow administrations and policy creators and quote unquote leadership, when we put them in a position to make decisions, they're usually very separate from the people that they're making the decisions for. And so I am trying to also create visibility to show that no, those of us who are considered, I don't know how I want to say this, but those of us who are essentially considered throwaway people, or that when we're looked at on a piece of paper, and we're considered to be the help, essentially, that we actually know how to solve the problems in the people's lives who are not loving the condition of their life. So, I'm walking for all of those things. I doubt that I'm going to hit the financial goal that we have set. But what I do know is that we're going to innovate and become stronger across the entire state of Washington as I continue to walk. And we are developing friendships and awareness along the way that I really, honestly, I could have never imagined possible. So sorry, I'm a little wordy. I really believe that, these are the ways that you develop community. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to showcase real stories. I'm not afraid to show what it is that we do. And I've been doing a lot of that on social media. I've been releasing videos that have been produced inside of the prison, showing the work that I do, and also trying to introduce people to my students that are out here who have been career criminals, murderers, victimizers, and all of the things. And today, a lot of them are flourishing and working in environments where they're actually helping people to become stronger versions of themselves as well.
Yeah. So to be clear, first of all, thanks for all that. I appreciate all the background. For someone who isn't exposed to some of the stuff you're talking about, if we were to dumb it down and explain it to like an 8-year-old, the way I understand the work that you're doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you help people that are incarcerated at all levels, whether they've committed a violent crime or not. Really, primarily, it sounds like you start with addiction and recovery and ways to deal with that, and the tools that you can use and the services that you can access, and a lot of sort of like self-empowerment stuff, community involvement. And then how does it go beyond, like, how does your program go beyond addiction and recovery? Like support for these folks that have been incarcerated and now need to know how to live a new life.
Yeah, well, first, I really want to say this. I think people get confused a little bit and do think that this program is about addiction and recovery, and it's not. What I have is a change program. I've developed a curriculum that teaches people to essentially assess their life, inventory their circumstances, ask themselves, what do you want your life to look like? And I teach this to not just prisoners, but I teach it on the streets as well. But and then essentially, to make it real simple, if you want something different, then we do something different. And so we develop the skills and ability to do that. And we do that by looking inward and recognizing who's making the decisions to place people in situations that they don't necessarily like navigating. How did those things happen? How did you get there? Where did you develop those skills? Okay, now that we know that, we don't really have to focus on that. We just focus on how to get out of that, right? And so I create network relationships across the state. So the intensive portion of the program is 26 weeks long. It could definitely be longer. And what I do around the end of that 26 weeks is I bring a lot of my network connections from across the state of Washington, meaning trades unions, employers, universities, different kind of legal support, housing providers, et cetera, et cetera. And when I say that, I'm not talking about social services. I am not talking about housing first. I am talking about market rate housing providers, transitional housing providers that are aligned with the goals of the organization that I run, which has everything to do with self-sufficiency, accountability, and human flourishing. And that's the bottom line. We really seek to provide the education necessary to teach people how to navigate society successfully when they leave. What that support looks like is I employ my students both inside and outside of the institution to be a support to each other. We learn how to develop community, how to move beyond the things that we say to ourselves. We focus a lot on internal messaging. We focus a lot on really blaming ourselves, period. Blaming ourselves and then changing our decisions. And then, you know, when I invite folks from across the state to come in and meet my students, what I'm inviting them to do is witness the work that they've put into their own life, recognize the integrity that they're living in that at that time, to also introduce themselves. I really like bringing in people who have lived experience businesses where they themselves have been to prison or they themselves have been in addiction and now are flourishing in the community, and to give them an opportunity to give back, but also others as well, right? And I'm going to tell you something, Marie, you know what's so cool is that I literally have people that drive all the way to Forks, Washington from Spokane to participate in these events, which is huge because I'm not offering them any financial resources. I'm saying, hey, we want you to be part of the solution. And the value that is added by providing people the opportunity to be of service and to address the problems that we are being taxed to death as taxpayers in the state of Washington on all of these really failed policy measures, such as housing first and harm reduction and all of these other things. And you know, whatever, I'm not trying to tear down a machine. All I'm trying to do is build a playing field over here that caters to the people who want their life on track, which arguably everybody does, right? And so, and I use these institutions to do that. But so what we offer outside is continued alumni support. I expect my guys to provide service both inside and outside while they're going through the program. And then, of course, once they get out, they are peer mentors to each other. They mentor the guys that are getting out. We have a lot of guys that have spent 10, 15, 20, 25 years inside a prison. And so it's really meaningful to be able to maintain that same community that they serve time with and watch those guys flourish, and then get the opportunity to learn through group participation how people get through the nose with employment when, you know, you go to 15 places and every place doesn't want to hire you, or when, you know, your significant other has been seeing somebody else and you didn't find out until you got to work release, or you find out that maybe you shouldn't be releasing to the house that has been approved. And so, you know, and then what we do as an organization on the professional side of it is, you know, we will then connect our students who are in compliance, or our alumni who are in compliance, meaning that they're attending alumni support meetings, they're staying clean and sober, they're doing all of the things to maintain their probation, et cetera, then we will connect them with, you know, our housing providers. We will get them aligned with some of our partners, like the ANEW program that does construction trades teaching, or some of our construction trades partners like the Local 252 and the Mason or the bricklayers. I don't remember what they are. We've got connections in all of these different places. So that's a little bit of what we do. Again, sorry,
That's great.
I'm so wordy, but it's just very involved.
Yeah, well, I think part of, you know, the value in you being verbose is that, you know, people will learn. And so the ones that are interested will hang in there, and the ones that aren't, no big deal. I want to pivot. I want to talk about you a little bit. Take us back. What did your life actually look like before everything sort of changed this last time? I don't think that we need to hear all of Ginny's story, but maybe in a general way, like what did it look like before you got like out of prison and clean, and then started building this new nonprofit that essentially you're walking for. So help us understand a little bit about like what it looked like before everything changed.
Yeah, I mean, roughly 30 years of addiction, and anybody can look me up, Ginny Burton, GINNY BURTON, and see the infamous side-by-side photos and, pictures definitely worth 1,000 words. So when I talk about being an addict, I'm talking about I look like somebody that walks out of an encampment. You know what I mean? Like straight out of Auschwitz.
Your photo is nationally or globally known. It's one of those photos that
Globally.
shows up in all the searches. And also I've seen it in very popular, like side-by-side before and after addiction collages. It's so amazing. It's like, oh, there's Ginny,
Yeah.
And you look like death, and now you look wonderful and revived, and it's a miracle.
Restored, right? So what life looked like for me right before all of this stuff took place is I had a feeling that I didn't know how to navigate, and I gravitated back toward a familiar environment, which means addiction. And for me, it spirals out of control very quickly the moment that I make the decision to escape through a substance. And very quickly, my life spiraled out of control. I committed more crimes. I ended up in an extremely violent relationship. And then, while praying for death, I was arrested. And thank God things were illegal. Because, and people sometimes think that I have some kind of superpower or that I'm different than others. And that's just not the case. I needed the separation long enough to find clarity and to be able to implement some change into my life. And so, so I was facing a number of years back in prison, and I got the opportunity to go to drug court. And, as I went to drug court, I worked in the environment. I worked in Reentry. I worked in social services in Seattle. I lived there for 21 years. And, what I found were all the gaps, right?
Yeah.
I found all the gaps. And so arguably, I didn't want to be a nonprofit because I've worked for a bunch of them. And, I will refrain from my value judgments on a lot of the nonprofits that serve people like me, but they just were insufficient. And so I actually initially, as I was working for a nonprofit, I went back to school. Part of it was a spiteful going back to school, and part of it was, okay, I'm not going to make it into these arenas to influence policy, because I really realized that in order to change things, I couldn't just focus on one life at a time. I had to focus on a policy measure because I needed to change things on a massive scale. And I had all of the components, which I did not lead with professionally, but I had all of the components of the people that were being served in the very large nonprofit that I worked for. And it dawned on me very quickly that the people that were making decisions, that the funders who we were taking orders from, that none of those people had any clue about people like me. Mm-hmm. And I saw this because there were revolving doors, repetitive cycles, tons of money, and a lot of destruction, desperation, and degradation that occurred in my face constantly. And I felt like I was having to eat a pill to find a reason or find enough value in what I was doing to be able to show up every day, because I truly felt like it was an extremely toxic situation. And I've seen it just unravel over the last number of years. But anyways, so, that's really what life was before I started the organization. When I got out of school, and I started to, I ran into Eric Johnson with KOMO 4 by accident. He came into my office when I was working for Catholic Community Services in Seattle, and he was looking for somebody else. And we ended up talking, and then I was on a couple of his shows. And then, I was put on the front page of UW stuff a couple times while I was in school. Was not trying to do any of these things, but I have a relationship with God that I found through 12-step, and I'm going to tell you, it's not a me thing; it was a God thing. And so, yes, the infamous pictures, all of that was to elevate the platform to help whatever it was that God had for me to do, and that's exactly what it is that I'm doing right now. So, I ended up opening a nonprofit after the LLC, after losing the contracts, because the LLC, A, the IRS has taken a bunch of money. B, there was a lot of money that I could apply for as a nonprofit. Mind you, I've been crazy doing that, but it's just not fast enough for me. And you know, Rory, there were a lot of things I didn't do in addiction, and I'm not doing it professionally either. So that's why I'm walking, because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put my feet where my mouth is. I'm gonna walk across the state. I'm gonna make some noise. I'm gonna highlight commitment, work ethic, and the willingness to put one foot in front of the other. And I'm gonna do it from freaking essentially Seattle to Spokane.
I have been having more and more conversations where the person I'm talking to who has real experience with addiction and or recovery has concluded that they wished that they had been locked up, or that they were grateful that they had been locked up. And I don't hear anybody in recovery, like people that have recovered, have years of sobriety, they're helping others out, anymore talk about how they wish they hadn't have been locked up. And, you've said, don't tell me prison doesn't save lives. What do you mean by that? And why didn't the compassionate approach work for you?
Well, the compassionate approach, first of all, if I was like under the policy constructs today, I'd probably be dead, or I'd be, emaciated with infections, with no teeth in a tent, with no relationship with my kids or my family. I would hate my life. And I would probably be, I'd probably be in prison, Rory, because I don't, the things that I do, they're the things that everybody else does, but nobody would be trying to save me from, those things. So don't tell me prison doesn't save lives, because it's not about what they do for you. It's about the fact that your situation is arrested, which means that cessation occurs with or without your consent, that you are removed from the victimization that you are perpetrating on the community.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what I mean. Prison saves lives by separating the person from their own personal choices. It's really no different than what we do with our kids when our kids break a rule.
Yep. I wish that there was an alternative that worked better as a separation. And I'm not trying to say that I know how to make policy. All I'm saying is I have been talking to more and more people who have been in recovery, who have either been to prison or, been around people that have been in prison. Every single one of them was grateful. And then you hear policymakers talk about how that needs to be stopped and ignored. And I'm like, well, where are we going wrong here? Because there's obviously a disconnect. But moving on, I just want to move on. I thought that was just a key point that I think I'm in alignment with, and I think that needs to be really looked at a little bit better. And I think what we're really talking about is removing consequences in the law for people that continue to break laws. You walked out of prison and into the University of Washington. What was that transition really like?
I mean, I was out for a while before I went back to school, and I worked for a reentry program where I had a lot of engagement with education institutions. And so for me, really, I was reminded of how much I love to learn. It had been a very long time. The last grade I completed from beginning to end was 6th grade. But I was also a gifted student. So, but I really forgot how much I loved education and loved learning. But, I learned some really amazing things. I learned my own value and my history and my own experience while I was on the University of Washington campus, because though I was among very intelligent young people who I was old enough to be their mom, but very brilliant young people, but I was able to recognize a couple of things. One, they had absolutely no idea what it was like to live where or come from where I come from. Yet they were making decisions and hypothetical, theorized writing hypothetical theorized papers on what they thought was needed. And I was able to see, because I had been in social services for a number of years before I went to UW, and I was able to identify that a lot of the problems that are pushing policy are coming right from those environments, from kids who have never been there. And that these kids are going to be amazing, and they're going to go into these different career fields, and then they're going to become our decision makers, and that a lot of their peer-reviewed things that they write actually drive a lot of the problematic measures that we see being very destructive. So but I loved it. Really, if I could get paid to go to school, I totally would. And it's also fun for me to go into ethics classes, like graduate level ethics classes, and really push back on a lot of the stuff that people,
the thing is like it's not out of malice and or incompetence that these kids are coming up with these very, loving ideas. It's just that they don't work.
100%. Well, and it's what's being taught on these campuses, and so it's actually quite fascinating. So it's sort of this cyclical echo chamber, and what happens, and they sound really fantastic on their face, all of the approaches that are driving a lot of the problematic policy.
They're kind and loving and thoughtful and nurturing. But the problem is that you cannot kind and love and nurture an addict who is essentially now a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't. Yeah. It's impossible.
Well, and this is the thing, right? And this is what I teach my guys. We all develop skills and abilities through rote behavior patterns that are displayed and that we learn how to practice in whatever environment. And those things help us to navigate the environment that we're in for whatever period of time. And I kind of came up with this when my daughter was about 12, my youngest, and she said, "What is your purpose with me?" And I said, "To make sure that you are prepared to enter the world when you leave my home." I mean, I'll try to be fluffy and nice. I'm not a fluffy and nice mom, but I promise you, I'll teach you some skills. And what I was able to recognize about my own life is that I learned the skills that were necessary to navigate my environment. And those skills didn't translate into the world where other people, are people that don't have experiences like mine were coexisting. And so I took a skill set. It was kind of like taking a hammer only to the construction site, because if the only thing you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? And so, really, when we discuss the environment on a university campus, or anywhere really, people do what they know. We teach and we maneuver and we move around in the world based on the environment that we come from. And if you come from a different kind of foundation than the people that you're trying to choose for, you are going to be inappropriately creating the path out, right? And I use this phrase a lot: if you haven't been to hell, you don't know how to navigate your way out of it. And that's just the bottom line. And so, it takes us to change us. There's a therapeutic value of one addict helping another. That's a 12-step slogan. Sure. And it's just the case everywhere, and so I teach, and that's what I do. I teach guys how to transition the skills that they've built in adverse environments and how to navigate society in a way that helps them to be the success that they envision, that they've always wanted in their heart. And, and what I love about universities is when I can go in there and share a different perspective, or when I can bring some of the students into the classes that I actually do now, because I do offer a community-based thing, because I want them to understand academia is fantastic, but we're using it in a very literal way, when in fact we should be using it all for critical thinking and to be able to discover who we are so that we can serve humanity as best we possibly can.
Yeah, and hands-on experience is probably really valuable for them. Just really quick on this, on your schooling, you graduated with honors and became a Truman Scholar. What did earning that kind of recognition mean to you, personally, after everything you'd been through?
So that was like, and arguably I was a Martin Honors Scholar recipient. So I think I was like maybe like 0.02 under like being honors, like having like
Right.
I don't know,
Whatever.
one of the cum laudes. But yes, but
Yeah.
anyways, well, I'll tell you what it meant for me egotistically. Like, I was involved with the post-prison education program, and Ari Cohn, who was my nemesis and my mentor and one of the closest people to me, he used to brag about all these very affluent, stably raised people, girls who would go to college, and he would always like give them all of this attention. And so I kind of like achieved, because I was like, you know what, bro, check this out. I'll do this, and I'm going to do it better than all of them do this, and in your face, and here's your degree, and but so that was part of it. But another part of it was, especially with the Truman Scholarship, when I really understood what the Truman Scholarship was, it changed the way that I saw myself, Rory, because first of all, I had no idea it was the most prestigious public service scholarship in the entire nation, and that I was competing with, a lot of people for a very small amount of people that actually get it, and that there's only one winner for every state, and that I beat out some really intelligent young people. And I was pretty sure that they were choosing, and I actually said this after I got it, and I went in for the leadership week. I said, I don't think you understand who you
Gave this
presented this to. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we completely understand
Oh yeah.
who we did. And because, I was 47 at the time, and I beat out a young girl. I said, this girl would provide so much more public service than me. They're like, oh no, we know who we gave it to. And the interesting part of that statement is very humbling. The policy construct that I had to write for the competitive essay portions of this scholarship competition, that's exactly what I'm doing today. It's exactly what I'm doing. And it's gaining like so much momentum. And also my program is known already in many other places, but it's becoming the model. And so so it's very humbling, and it's also, for me, it's very confirming, because it's helped me to see that people have seen things in me that I myself could not see. And it helped me to know that probably I shouldn't talk about what I think I know even about myself, that I should just probably keep showing it up and doing what it is that my higher power tells me to do.
That's amazing. Your story, as soon as you started doing work and building out the program and developing a brand, it's run on local news and really big national news. What's it been like carrying something, this personal onto a national stage? I mean, you seem like you interview great. But man, when I started seeing you on major news organizations outside of our local, KOMO and Cairo and King, I was like, man, Ginny is literally global now. So what was that like? Was it fairly sort of slightly nerve-wracking, or did you feel a new sort of renewed sense of success or responsibility?
Yeah, so I've had a couple of different things sort of happen. First of all, I've been on like stuff in Germany and our national stations and things like that. At first, it was very exciting. So, kind of like drugs, right? Where my stuff started going viral, and I was literally watching
number go up.
Oh yeah, the social medias, stuff that I had never even been on. I was watching like millions of people engaging with these photos, right? And then I started being contacted, and so my ego got a little bit involved at different times. And so,
it can be scary for people like us. Like once that ego I have to check myself.
Like, don't you know who I am? You know what I mean? And so, So that happened, but then, and people reaching out to me from all over the world. And then, it still comes in waves actually. And so, but also recognizing like, wow, this wasn't something that I tried to do. And so also seeing God in that and having, and this kind of stuff has been happening over the last 6 years. The last 6 years have given me such an opportunity to recognize my flesh, my ego involved in this entire situation, to be able to eliminate that, to really focus on the work, to stop, because there was discomfort at first too, right? With the exposure of my very personal portions of my story.
Yep.
And I got sick of hearing my story. I got really tired of it after a while. I got, I found the value in it when it came to people recognizing that if I can, so can they. And being more focused and really falling in love with my own population in prison and in addiction, like having that be the most, I think I want to say the most intimate places that I could share, even though that might sound a little crazy because the intimate places are still often hundreds of people that I'm talking to, but like, feeling like that's where the most personal portions of my story are actually reserved for. And that, and so I went through this process where when it came to like being asked to speak at a place, right? And whatever, somewhere else across the United States.
Sure.
And people kind of like sort of using my story like trauma porn, right? Like doing a shot at trauma porn. And so I went through all of these different kind of emotional places with it. Whereas now, I recognize that my story, not me. I mean, yes, people use me as the idol, but it's not really that. The story itself is just, it's an opportunity for hope that says that it doesn't matter what it is that you do, there is a way out. And so I just keep trying to walk that out. And honestly, it's been a blessing also because I've painted myself into a corner and I have this massive awareness that if I were to choose to do something destructive in my life, that I would be leading people into giving up on themselves. And because I've had so many different experiences in recovery. And so I'm really grateful that I painted myself into that corner and that my story has become so public because now I get to show up in integrity, but I also get to show up in transparency and accountability where I don't hide who I am and the challenges that I have and the struggles that I have and the things that are going on with my family and, and trying to stay clean through all of these things and like, making decisions very imperfectly. I think those things are really important to show because we live in a world today where it's like, oh, we need to dress up our externals. We need to look really good for this 2-minute video on Instagram or Facebook. And like, we need to be these unreal versions of humanity. And so, so this whole entire process has brought me back to this place where I value not looking great, just showing up as myself, not caring about what you think, only caring about how I show up because it's more important for me for people to see authenticity than it is for, whatever the things are that we as humans, when we're struggling in insecurity, actually think bring value. I don't care about externals. I care about internals and I care about influencing lives in a very intentional way. And so it's been like this really wild roller coaster of personal and self-awareness where, I now can identify things, my ego, for example, my flesh, my greed, my desire, whatever those things are, and like put those things to bed and really focus on a couple of things. How may I serve thee? Am I showing up as the best version of myself? Meaning, am I being honest? Am I being transparent? Am I, serving? And am I also taking time for myself? Right. And, anyway,
That's
I don't
great.
know. It's been wild.
So you wrote this book, The Gabriel Plan. What made you want to put your approach into a book? And what are the points at the center of it? You don't have to give us all 10, but like, what are the, like, just briefly, I'd love to hear more about that book.
Yeah, so the Gabriel Plan, first of all, I was woken up twice from a dream over, I don't know, a 6-month period, told to write this book. The first time I don't even know what you're talking about. So I have a very strong relationship with God. I pray, I meditate, God talks to me. I talk crazy to God sometimes, but anyways, I was woke up the day that I was going on the show and I was told to write the 10-point plan, literally being yelled at in my dream, and it woke me up. And so I got to work on writing it. I knew what the 10-point plan was supposed to be about. I just wasn't sure really how to go about it. And it really has everything to do with the environment that I've been working in and for over the last 14 years, which is homelessness, addiction, incarceration, crime, and policy. And so the 10 points really have to do with accountability on every portion of all of those things that I just talked about. Holding government accountable, holding organizations accountable, holding programs accountable to actually delivering outcomes, not being able to be funded on outputs, holding the people themselves accountable, separating them from their destructive choices, providing real education to help people become the strongest version of themselves, and then redeveloping our nation to become the strongest nation that it can be, because we care about our citizenry. Really, not focusing on pharmaceutical approaches, not trusting industries that haven't been there, but really utilizing lived experience and intention in everything that we do, so that we are reunifying families, that we're contributing to community safety, that we're not allowing our frickin' communities to just completely crumble within themselves by catering to the problematic behavior of the addict who has an insatiable appetite for more when in fact they hate themselves the entire time.
Yeah, that's great. And there are people that live in the city and or in cities that will watch this and go, "Oh yeah, I get it." And then there's other people, I think, that maybe don't understand how the city has changed from fentanyl, And I mean, the ones that are in recovery will understand, but the ones that aren't in the city, they just won't see it like we see it. And it's an emergency. It's an epidemic, and people really, I think, need different ways of looking at this, and or just more education about what the facts are. I want to talk about your services and your skill set. So on your site, it talks about consulting with courts, elected officials, government agencies. Who's your typical client? Like, is it municipalities, prisons, court systems? And what are they usually coming to you, like, asking for help with? Is it like policy making? Is it talking? Is it consulting? Help us understand, like, if you weren't on this walk, what kind of work are you doing outside of the prison stuff we've talked about?
Yeah, outside of the prison stuff that we talk about, I backed off on a lot of stuff. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book. But for the last number of years, I've been working with the Tennessee's Department of Human Services, where we're working on policy constructs to really intentionalize the money that's being spent, the taxpayer dollars that are being spent through programs such as TANF, and developing currently, what we just finished is developing a framework and infrastructure for pilot programs where essentially there's a hub, and the hub is employed predominantly through lived experience folks that can help people navigate different kind of services to help them address their underlying causes, develop the necessary skills for economic improvement, which, really, you don't really have any of these different environments, whether it's poverty, homelessness, social services, quote unquote, mental health, and all these things are all overlapping. And so I worked on this construct in Tennessee for something called No Wrong Door. And so that's mostly what it is that I do. I will get, a lot of the times I'll get politicians and things like that. A lot of people want to absorb my time for free. So that's another reason I wrote the book, because it's like, okay, just, you want to know what I have to think about those kind of things, here, read the book, and then if you're interested in, paid consulting or whatever, then go ahead and reach out to me. But yeah, I mean, that's mostly what it is that I do. I work to redevelop approaches that save taxpayer dollars and then, of course, intentionalize service structures or institutions.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, I'll put links to the site in the description. If this walk succeeds and you hit the full 250K, you mentioned you weren't sure you were going to hit that goal, but what does the next year look like for you regardless? Like if you hit it or you don't, like what does the next year look for, like in terms of the company and you, and help us understand what the future looks like after this walk?
Yeah. Well, whether we get the money or we don't get the money, I'm a no person left behind kind of person. So I will make a way to be out at that prison every week like I normally do. I will teach my guys to teach. I will continue to develop curriculum and infrastructure. And so I'm working on licensing, getting all of the components necessary for licensing my program, not the program specifically, but the content, the curriculum, the facilitator manual, et cetera, et cetera. I will continue to work with the Department of Corrections. We're talking about the program going into other facilities. We've been talking about that for a while. And I'll continue to work to fundraise. On Ginny Burton's own time. Ginny Burton has her own brand. I'm working with a marketing company who we're working on a whole bunch of stuff. It's going to be really exciting. It's essentially the same kind of stuff that I've done in the prison, but we're going to go ahead and package stuff for the rest of the world as well. So I'm excited about that. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, more podcasts, more different things. I'm going to, of course, continue to try to work on my YouTube channel, which features the Modern America. We're going to be releasing, and for anybody that's watching, Modern America with Ginny Burton, it's on YouTube. We are going to be releasing a lot of the content that we've been filming over the last year inside of the prison, which is going to be really exciting. So,
are there links to that already?
Well, most of it's private, but I have released a few things. And I am happy. I was actually going to send you, Rory, the 4.3-minute video that my producer just sent me, just specifically for this walk, where you can see some of what it is that I'm doing inside of the prison. So I'm happy to make any of that content available. But yeah, so, I do a lot of different things. Also, I have a 7.5 acre property that I really want to just develop out. So I really like going out with my chainsaw and stuff like that. So in my spare time, and I got a couple of mountains to climb. So that's what I have going on. Yeah.
All right. So final question. What do you want someone watching this, maybe someone who's given up on a person they love or given up on themselves, to take away from your story?
Sometimes we might think we're giving up, but sometimes we just personally need to take a break. So if you're a person struggling in addiction, or if somebody steps away from you, I don't think I need to explain anything to the actively using addict, because we know. But the person who's struggling because their loved one just isn't stopping, I think it's really important for you to know that that's not even really your loved one. That's your loved one that's been abducted by an alien that they're in complete submission to. And so when you're trying to reason with this person, when you're trying to convince them to do these things, the drugs and alcohol have a firm hold on them, and that is not even the person. I am a huge proponent of trying to get people locked up long enough to incentivize them to have to go to treatment and things like that. Just hold on, find help and support for yourself. And person in addiction, please go commit a felony and get caught. Thank you.
Right.
Because let's get you back on track.
Yeah. I know there's going to be listeners that might be shocked by that, but I truly believe that some people just need to be locked up, and that doesn't have to be that we're punishing them. it's not
Accountability
necessarily,
is not a
yeah,
bad word.
yeah,
Accountability is not a bad
it's
word.
not punishment because they're bad people. It's a separation from society because they need a break. And again, I don't want to get into policy. I'm not a policymaker. I just know what I know based on what I've seen and the successes that I've witnessed. And the math just doesn't math out, you know? I want to end by really talking about what it's been like to witness you from afar. We used to run in the same circles, I want to say 20 plus years ago. And that was fantastic. And you were always a wonderful person. But it has been a true pleasure to watch you get the notoriety and the recognition at the level I've seen you get it through your successes. And you know, as a marketing person, you know, I can spot a brand that works. And so I have my marketing hat when I've watched your journey. And I also have my sort of like humanity hat when I watched your journey. And it is just so amazing to me. My hope from this episode is that people understand that if they're feeling scared about, you know, job loss, or if they're feeling nervous about the next career move or whatever, like they're going to be taken care of, because if people like Ginny Burton can be taken care of, you know, in a spiritual way, whatever your beliefs are in that respect, anybody can, you know. And it's just been so awesome to watch you take action in your life, continue to build out and do things and give back to the community and create. That's what this show's all about, is taking action, creating things, not sitting around, you know, so bummed out or deterred that you know, end up with a medical condition. You know, because those can be in the form of drugs and alcohol to numb the pain of like not getting that job or not knowing what to do next with our lives. So I think that, you know, I just want to recognize you for that, and thank you so much for jumping on. I'll put links in the description to just. Is there a link that follows you with your journey on this walk?
Yeah.
Will you send that to me and
Yeah.
tell us too?
Yeah, if you go to outimpact.org/walk, first you have to download the CalTopo, CALTOPO app, but there is a link at the bottom of the walk page that if you click on it, you can see exactly where I'm at.
Okay,
exactly where I'm at.
After this, will you email me? I've got your website link, but will you email me that link as well as any kind of other media you want me to put in the description? I'll make sure the listeners get it.
Absolutely. Thank
Ginny,
you, Lori.
Enjoy the rest of your walk. Be safe, and I hope you stay hydrated.
Thank you. I surely will.
Okay, take care.
All right. Have a great night.
Bye.